Okay. Good morning, and thanks very much for joining us this morning. My name is Mark Spence, I'm Managing Director of the CEF. Delighted to welcome you this morning. Thank you for your time this morning to join us and our new commercial partners, SustainIQ and Liam McAvoy. SustainIQ have joined us within the last month. We're delighted to have them on board. It's a really important time for construction in Northern Ireland to begin to, I think, get on to this journey of sustainability. Many of you are on it. Many of you are curious about it, but the one thing's for sure is we can't avoid it. We're all going to have to go there. And SustainIQ, and Liam will be a familiar figure to many of you, I'm sure, through his years in the industry, have a lot to add, I think, to our membership, and we're grateful to Liam for giving his time today, and hopefully again, Liam, on future occasions, to share some of his understanding of sustainability, and particularly how it can affect your business and how it can add to both your top line in terms of your success in winning work, but crucially also insights into how it can actually help your bottom line as well. So with no further ado, we're going to go into the presentation. Liam will take about 40 minutes doing that. I would ask you during the presentation, please make use of the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to submit any questions, and we'll certainly pick those up at the end of the session. And just to advise you, the session is being recorded as well for those who maybe couldn't make it to this morning's webinar. So I will hand over now to Liam. And thank you very much, Liam, again for taking the session this morning.
That's great, Mark. Thank you very much. Just making sure you can all hear me okay. All good. Yeah, I am that person that usually has mute on. So I just want to double check. So thank you all for your time this morning. As Mark says, we'll just take maybe around 40 minutes or so and then do a little Q&A. So we're not going to go too in depth into a lot of this stuff. We'll keep it sort of relatively sort of high level, but we'll have a look at how companies could be using their sustainability performance to drive their top and their bottom line. So just first of all, so it's now. Just first of all, a little bit about myself and my company. So I am one of the co-founders of SustainIQ, along with my business partner and the other co-founder, Maria Diffley. We launched SustainIQ back in 2017, primarily focusing on the construction sector. However, since then we have pivoted into other sectors. SustainIQ is a unique integrated software tool that helps organizations measure, monitor, and report on their social, environmental, and economic performance. It's an integrated sustainability reporting platform. So the tool facilitates multi-users and multi-sites. It operates using an app. We're Belfast-based, obviously, but we are operating across the UK and Ireland now, and we are delighted to be now a commercial partner with the CEF. Just in terms of myself and my own background, prior to SustainIQ, I've worked for 15, 16 odd years in the construction industry. My background is environmental management. And I suppose over the years that even evolved to include a sort of wider sustainability scope. So I have experience of developing and implementing sustainability strategies for different organizations, and I would have a strong background in systems such as ISO 14000, 9000, and so on. And then working for contractors, I've quite a bit of experience working with BREEAM and SQL and all those other sort of industry standards as well. So a big background there and lots of experience in working in sustainability and in the construction sector. So in terms of this morning, I just want to take a quick look at how sustainability has evolved in terms of its journey through my own career, why there is a current focus on sustainability. It's really up there in terms of items on corporate agendas. How maybe you guys could start to think about using your own sustainability performance to improve your top line, but also how you could use it to improve bottom line as well. And we'll take a quick look at some of the barriers, and then we'll take another look at maybe how you guys can make a start. If you haven't already, I know a lot of you have, but for those of you that maybe haven't, just a few sort of tips around making a start on your own sustainability journey. So if I just take a look, first of all, at how sustainability has evolved, and I'm going to base this really on my own career to date. When I started working in construction, there was a heavy focus on the environmental aspect of sustainability. Probably 90% of sustainability back then was based in and around environmental management. That would have been the early 2000s. However, there was then a bit of a shift around 2010, 2011 towards a more societal impact, and that's to do with all the community impact. A lot of contractors starting to sign up to the likes of Consider Constructor scheme, a lot of social clauses requiring different types of reporting around apprenticeships and placement opportunities. So that then started to widen the scope a wee bit of sustainability beyond just reporting on environmental. I'd say in the last 18 months to 2 years, we've seen a shift, a pretty sharp shift towards procurement, in particular supply chains and responsible supply chains, and making supply chains more transparent and so on. And we're still sort of at the start of that journey. However, we've sort of come full circle again, because we're back around again with a strong focus on the environmental, and with a particular focus on the likes of net zero carbon emissions and so on, which I'm sure you've all heard. Different companies making public statements and public commitments and so on too. So it has been on a journey, but I suppose what that means is a lot more people across your organizations now need access to sustainability related information. So no longer just the compliance teams, the environmental teams, for example. You've got your bid departments needing access to sustainability information, so that they can include it within PQQs and within tenders. Marketing and PR and comms departments all now looking at access to that sort of information for communicating with stakeholders, for good news stories on socials and so on. Contract teams having to report back to clients on progress reports, or to report back to BREEAM assessors or SQL or whoever it might be lead. So all of a sudden, a lot of different people, a lot of different roles, and a lot of different departments all now needing access to sustainability information across the organizations. And that in itself has created a lot of challenges for organizations over the years to try to capture that information, centralize it, and make it readily available for the different teams. There's a focus now more so on the data, the performance data as well. I suppose during my career to date, we've all talked a lot around sustainability. There's been a lot of good news stories around it, certainly within tenders and PQQs. A lot of companies communicating maybe through corporate responsibility reports and all of that. However, there has been a shift in the last year or so. And we're looking now at the next 10 years being very data focused, and it's very much now on companies to not just say they're focused on sustainability, or not just say they've integrated it within their business, but actually they need to demonstrate it, they need to prove it, and they need to provide some sort of evidence through the data of their own performance to show that they're having an impact and they're moving the right direction. So I suppose that would be the biggest shift that I've seen, and it's a good shift. It's we've needed to see this shift take place so that companies become a little bit more data driven in terms of their decisions around sustainability. But as Greta said, the change is coming whether you like it or not. And the next 10 years, particularly for construction, it's going to be a very challenging 10 years that's ahead of us, particularly around the whole net zero emission conversation. So it's happening already. We're seeing a lot of it on the ground. So and it's moving very, very quickly. I've never known anything within sustainability to sort of move at rapid speed, quite like the conversation around net zero emissions. So it's already happening, it's already taking place, and I suppose, look, it's up to us to get on board, figure out how that impacts our business, and what we need to do to prepare for that going forward. So I think the one thing, just to wrap that up, is sustainability is constantly changing, it's constantly evolving, and we just sort of need to make sure that whatever our strategies are, that they're able to adapt with that as well. I suppose, look, just looking at why there's a particular focus on sustainability at the minute. No matter where you go, no matter what sector, every organization is talking about sustainability, and everyone's at different stages of their journey, but lots of conversations taking place. And I suppose just to flag a few drivers in terms of what has been pushing it up the agenda. I suppose the big one there would be expectations. So we're starting to see clients, customers, public procurement in particular, really drive sustainability through their contracts, through their supply chain. And so if we're part of that supply chain, we have to react and we have to deliver on those expectations as well. So that's certainly a big driver, and it's going to continue to be over the next few years. I think everyone's staff now are a lot more aware of sustainability, and I suppose companies being a little bit more responsible. So certainly that staff awareness and supply chain awareness as well is a driver. The public themselves are a lot more aware. So everyone's walking by a site now, they've all got a smartphone in their pocket, and the YouTube app is on that. So it's not difficult, or Twitter, it's not difficult for people to put bad practice or poor practice out there if they're not happy with what they see. So it's important that we kind of understand their expectations as well with regards our site setup and all of that as well. There's a lot of legislative drivers, such as the national and international sort of legislation. So the Paris Agreement is the big one. The UK government announced their targets to be net zero by 2050. They've come out since with the 2030, a very challenging 2030 target as well. The UN Sustainable Development Goals are now starting to make a lot more noise. They've been around for a while, and we're into the last 10 years or so of those. But again, over the next few years, you're going to hear a lot more around the UN SDGs, and a lot of companies are now looking at those. There's 17 of them, I believe, and a lot of companies are looking at them and looking at which ones are directly related to their business, their operations. They're aligning with them, they're integrating them within their sustainability strategies, and they're going to be starting to report on their progress towards their chosen SDGs. So again, a lot of local companies, even when you go onto their website, you're starting to see a lot of references towards the SDGs. And then there's the EU Non-Financial Reporting Directive coming out, which is again going to drive a lot, as a driver for a lot of non-financial reporting, and therefore a lot of sustainability related information that's going to have to be reported on, potentially made public as well. An example of that would be now companies in the UK with over 30 million turnover now having to return their carbon emissions to Companies House along with their financial returns. So it's already started. Companies are already having to return environmental impact information to Companies House with their financials. So that's only going to continue to evolve in terms of the amount of information that has to be returned. In terms of a couple of hot topics, which is keeping sustainability, I suppose, high on the agenda, and we've got the whole net zero emissions, of which we're going to hear a lot more about in the coming years as well. Circular economy is definitely starting to pick up pace again. It's been around for a while, a lot of chatting around it, but there's a real opportunity now, particularly through the likes of software, different tech solutions. BIM, for example, really does now allow the likes of circular economy to really start to happen and pick up pace. The social return on investment, again, particularly through public procurement and public sector contracts, there's a big focus now on particularly contractors to report back on the social return on investment, SRI piece, when building schools or hospitals or whatever that might be. There's a real focus on organizations and companies to have strong governance in place, and that's everything from, the supply chain processes, fair payment policies, modern slavery policies, rights to work in the UK, all of that type of stuff now also sort of coming under the sustainability banner, but more so under a governance banner. So huge focus now on companies to sort of be able to demonstrate they've got those policies and processes in place. And then, you've got sort of singular topics, certainly around single-use plastics continues to be a thing, particularly in construction, and around packaging and so on as well. So again, lots of conversations taking place, but a lot of work to do there in terms of looking at the different types of packaging, looking at what they're being used for, and if there's any alternatives in terms of replacing them as well. And then, as I said, in the last couple of years, there's been a bit of a shift towards procurement, and in particular, responsible supply chain. So you see now organizations really starting to sort of, I suppose, do a bit of a risk analysis across their supply chain, understand what the risks are, and then try to start building a more responsible supply chain, certainly more transparent supply chain as well. And again, that's been drove from government and from a lot of public procurement clients and so on as well. So they're just a few hot topics. I'm sure you have a few more to add to them, but certainly that list there is keeping sustainability high on corporate agendas. So if we take a little look at how you can use maybe your sustainability and performance to improve your top line, we're just going to take a look at a few examples here. The first one I would just sort of point out would be building client confidence and how you could maybe go about doing that and using sustainability to do that. And I know a lot of local companies are doing just that, and they're very, very good and very, very successful at it. So, I mean, even just understanding who your clients are, what are they doing with regard to sustainability? Do they have their own sustainability strategy? It's easy to go and find that out. On their website, certainly they'll have policies, or they might even have reports. And it's just finding them, reading them, and understanding their language, understanding how they talk about sustainability, how it's important to them and their business, and indeed their supply chain, of which you might be part of as well. Look at what they're doing, look at what you're doing, and see if there's any opportunities to collaborate, or certainly align even with their objectives and targets, and engage with them and find out, what are there any opportunities to work together, potentially take the lead in certain areas, and see. I mean, there's lots of local examples of that where contractors have really stepped up and taken the lead with their customer base on a range of sustainability topics. But it's building that client confidence that you're capable, that you understand sustainability, understand what it means to your business. You understand the direction of travel with regard to sustainability across the industry over the coming years. And that you've got a plan in place within your business to manage that and deal with that. So that's one area. I mean, we would work with a lot of our customers, and one of the things that we do spend a lot of time looking at is their client base, and looking at their clients' sustainability practices, and what opportunities exist to sort of align with because there are similarities, different clients, different priorities, of course, but there's a lot of similarities there in terms of what focus areas they're looking at. So that means there's opportunities for you as a business to jump in there as well. I suppose, look, you can't avoid the legislation or the industry and the contract requirements, and again, it's about getting ahead of them all rather than reacting, be more proactive towards them. Certainly, I know a lot of you would be working on the likes of BREEAM, or if you're civils, maybe it's more around SQL, or certainly if you're working in the Republic, there'd be a lot of focus in around Dublin on LEED. So different sort of sustainability assessments linked to the project, and a huge amount of reporting placed on contractors in terms of the performance of that project. So I think we've all been a little bit guilty of dragging our heels with regards reporting on that, but a lot of local companies again have really sort of stepped up and taken the lead. For example, Felix O'Hare obviously delivered the Merchant Square office project in Belfast City Centre there for PwC. So I believe they were contracted to deliver a very good BREEAM. They actually went beyond that. They exceeded that, and they delivered an excellent BREEAM for their client. So that's building client confidence right there in terms of, we can go beyond and we can actually give you more than what you've actually asked for. So there's an opportunity in there for certainly Northern Ireland contractors to do just that. I suppose there's lots of other sort of, I've already mentioned a few of them. There's a lot of other sort of legislation that's important to get ahead of, and rather than reacting to it, it's getting the proper processes in place within your business, and to be more sort of proactive. An example would be the CERC regulations, which is the Streamlined Energy and Carbon Reduction Regs, which is again the code I referenced in the previous slide around companies, I believe over 30 million, having to return their emissions data to Companies House. ESOS, again, the Energy Saving Opportunity Scheme, is providing a lot of opportunities there for organizations to identify opportunities to improve their energy efficiency right across their organization. But if you're getting ahead of this and you're sort of becoming a lot more aware in terms of the requirements of the sustainability assessments such as BREEAM or SQL, or you're aware of the regulations and the legislations and all other contract and client requirements, you're helping to avoid any non-compliance and any associated penalties that might be associated with that. And again, it helps to reduce the risk often that can be associated with regulatory delays, again, that we've all experienced. Just one point there at the bottom I wanted to sort of point out would be the social return on investment, the SRI, and it's going to be a big thing over the next few years. It is already, but it's going to continue to sort of evolve. Requires a huge amount of reporting back from the contractors. So again, rather than wait, jump in now and understand what is required, and take a lead, and get sort of in front of it rather than reacting. Suppose, look, there's an obvious one there too, but a lot of companies now look to sustainability to really increase their competitiveness, particularly in PQQs and tenders. You know, there is on average, we've done a lot of sort of research into different public sector contracts in particular, and on average, you're looking at around 20% weighting within a quality submission that relates directly to sustainability questions. So it might be around the environment, it might be around apprenticeships, it might be around supply chain or whatever. But when you look at them and you add them all up, there's around 20% weighting there up for grabs. So, you know, price gets you so far, but, you know, at some point, and you're maybe down to what, 2-3 other contractors. It's this other stuff that's going to help you get over the line and win that project. And so a lot of contractors are now looking to sustainability to help them do that. It is important though that you're able to back it all up now with performance, and you need to prove you're doing what you say you're doing as well. So that's where kind of the performance data, your waste management, your apprenticeship weeks, all of these types of things all are really critical now in order for you to be able to include them within tender submissions. And prove to the client that you're capable and that you've got the processes and procedures in place to deliver on all of these sort of requirements, and hopefully get you a few extra marks as a result. I suppose one of the most recent things that we've sort of come across would be the banking sector now including sustainability within loan applications. So even there in terms of maybe you need to access finance to scale the business, to grow, to move into other markets, whatever it might be. In order for you to secure those loans so that you can grow your business, you need to be able to demonstrate on that application your sustainability credentials. So again, that's back to data and performance and having that information to hand so you can include it whenever you need to. We're seeing a lot more of the HR departments using sustainability as part of that whole sort of culture piece, and they're aligning it with their organization's visions and values. And they're doing that to sort of tackle that whole issue with the skills gap that the industry is having to deal with, to, I suppose, retain staff, but also attract new staff into the organization, and motivate staff as well. So, you know, increase productivity. And they're very much using sustainability, that whole culture piece, to promote their business, to promote their organization, as a way of attracting particularly the graduates or the millennials into your organization. There's a lot of choice for them now, so you want them to be looking at you as a sustainable business, a business that understands the impact that they're having on the environment, on society, on the economy, and that you've got a plan in place to sort of manage that. There's lots of different sort of stats floating around about millennials, but the one that I always sort of flag is they're going to be 70. I think millennials are going to be around 75% of the global workforce by 2025. And they want to work for organizations that foster innovative thinking, develop their skills, and make a positive contribution to society. And again, lots of different figures, lots of different stats. We'll share this slide after, and you can sort of see some of the stats there at the bottom of the screen. But if you want to be in business, you want to get the best staff, the most capable staff in the future, and you want to attract this new talent into your organization and maybe even tempt them away from others. Sustainability is very much again being looked on as a way of achieving that. And again, a lot of HR departments are now using that information to do just that. And then I suppose the big one there at the bottom as well is a lot of contractors, certainly across GB, you're seeing them use sustainability to build and maintain a really positive brand image for their business. So again, there's opportunities there to sort of promote yourself as a sustainable business, a sustainable contractor. Again, as long as you've got the performance data to back up and prove you're doing what you say you're doing. And then looking at bottom line as well, again, loads of opportunities there to sort of really improve, your company's bottom line. Margins are tight. We all know that. So, it's important to look at all opportunities that exist. And I suppose it's back to the data and back to the information and back to the performance and using that to really identify trends, and hopefully opportunities for improvement that are going to reduce operating costs, are going to increase efficiencies across processes. I've just threw a few down there as an example, but if you're really properly monitoring, measuring, reporting on your waste management across all of your different sites, and you're looking at your main waste materials, you understand the volumes that you're producing and the costs associated with that. You're going to understand where you're producing the waste, why you're producing the waste, but more importantly, you're going to understand how and what opportunities exist to reduce that and therefore reduce cost. It's exactly the same with energy management on site. The price of generators and even plugging into main supply and so on, it's huge cost. But again, if you're really sort of closely watching all of that and reporting on a regular basis, you're going to see, opportunities to improve and to reduce energy costs. Same with water there as well. Opportunities to eliminate duplication. There's lots of different spreadsheets flying around. I used to call it death by spreadsheets on a Friday afternoon. So many spreadsheets coming at people. Is that the best way of working? Is there a tech solution? Is there some other way of working that reduces duplication, but at the same time, make sure you get the information in and whoever needs access to that has access to it. They don't have to go around the houses looking for it. And all of this will obviously improve your approach to risk management as well. And really just, I suppose, innovating. It's a word it's used a lot, but you guys know your businesses better than anyone. And so really you are the best people to identify new and improved ways of working. And I suppose ask the really, really difficult questions. Even if you don't have the answers right now, still ask the questions because you need to know what they are. And I mean, one for example is this whole conversation around net zero carbon construction. What does a net zero construction site look like in 2030 and 2035 and 2040? And then work backwards from that and ask yourself, as a business, what are you now going to have to do to prepare for that? What sort of investment? Because there's going to be investment. This is going to cost all of its money. What sort of investment is going to be required over the next few years to ensure that you can achieve those targets that, again, have been placed on you, the contractor, by the client? And what other solutions, and what type of qualifications or experience, whatever it might be, do you need within the business to make sure that in 5, 10, 15, 20 years time, you're able to be operating in an efficient way, but you're meeting all the requirements that have been set out by regulations, by contract requirements, and so on. And I think that net zero carbon is a good example of how it's really going to challenge every single one of us over the next few years. And there's a lot of things we can start doing today, but there's also a lot of things that we're going to really rely on external factors that are really going to have to come into play as well to sort of help us achieve a certain element of it. But again, there's a lot of prep work that all of us could be getting started with, certainly over the next couple of years. So again, I'll just take a quick look at some of the barriers that exist. I think the whole understanding and awareness of sustainability is still a barrier. Sustainability is huge. It's a vast term, and it means so many different things to so many different people depending on their role within the organization. So it's important, again, that as an organization, as a company, you tackle that and you really sort of understand what it means to you, to your business, and to your staff and to your supply chain and to your customer base and so on. So it's really understanding the roles and responsibilities then within sustainability and that they understand their part to play, particularly around reporting and so on. The one thing I always flag out, again, thinking back on my own career, but sustainability is no longer a one-person job. It's not even a one-department job. It's huge. It's just grew now so much. It's beyond just environmental and social. You're bringing in supply chains, procurement teams, and it's going to continue to evolve. So it's important just to recognize that while it's important to have someone or a team or a department focusing on it, yes, but every single person in the organization has a role to play with regard to sustainability. And it's important to recognize that and address that as well. Again, lots of external factors still to sort of be considered. There is only so much stuff in terms of what you can directly influence as a business. But I'm thinking there particularly around net zero emissions. There's still a lot of conversations taking place and a lot of things still need to be decided, which will impact all of us. I think one of the big barriers has always been, continues to be, capturing data across multiple sites in an accurate and reliable way, particularly across multiple users. So it's making sure that every site is reporting, every office is reporting. It's making sure they're reporting in a consistent way that's accurate and it's reliable, and it's not, you need to be able to stand over. The next 10 years is so critical around performance data that you need to make sure that you're able to stand over it. That if you're reporting to a client, or we start to look towards offsetting, which is going to again cost all of us in the next 10 years or so. You're going to want to make sure you've got the most accurate information to hand. So it's looking at that whole reporting piece, but particularly across the multiple sites and the multiple users, and figuring out a way to improve that as well. So again, I think there's been a lack of capital investment in looking at new ways to design and to manage operations. But again, that's starting to change because the conversation is picking up pace and it's moving at rapid pace. So that's going to change again over the next couple of years. I think for a lot of us, the big problem is time and resource requirements, including financial requirements for a lot of this stuff. And I appreciate not everyone is of a size that they have the resource in-house to do this, but again, it's impacting all of us, and we all just need to figure out what is the impact to us, to our business, and how do we address that, and what do we need to do to make sure in 5 years, 10 years time, we're still relevant and we're still delivering for our clients. I suppose that leads into top level commitment is still critical. It's obvious, it goes without saying, but it doesn't always exist. So it's making sure that those directors, those senior managers understand the direction of travel for the industry and what it means for them, and that you've got total buy-in in terms of your strategy, your decisions that you're making going forward. I think a lot of companies still suffer from having a lack of a strategy, a lack of a roadmap. They don't fully understand what the next 10 years in particular is going to look like for them. So I think that is a problem. It's certainly a barrier that needs to be addressed again quickly. So it's about understanding where things are moving and making sure you get a proper roadmap in place for your own business. But I think that bottom one for me has always been the big issue, and it's the lack of performance data. It's having no baselines. It's not having any information. So if you are making an investment in whatever it might be, say you decide to invest in an electric fleet, or you decide to, whatever, a big commitment, low carbon lighting, whatever it might be, you as a business need to be able to measure the impact of that on the environment, but also financially as well. And I think there's still a lack of real accurate, reliable data around to help companies do that. So, again, that needs to be addressed. You need to know, for example, if we go back to emissions, what are your emissions? Where are they coming from? What have you got direct influence over? What do you not have direct influence over? And only when you have that information and that transparency right across the organization, can you really, make proper plans and proper strategies and put them in place to really drive the business forward. So data is critical, and it's going to be more critical over the coming years. So I'm nearly done. So in terms of making a start, hopefully I haven't scared you too much, but there's a lot of easy things that can be done now today to sort of make a start on your sustainable journey as well. But it's really understanding the direction of travel. It's all out there in terms of the conversations that are taking place within the industry. There's webinars and all sorts happening on a daily basis, discussing all of this again. It's moving so quickly. So it would be for me to sort of advise to really understand what the expectations are now, but what they're going to be in 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years time, so that you fully understand the impact of this whole sustainability piece is going to have on your business. And then that allows you to prepare. Develop that strategy or that roadmap. Doesn't have to be the most complex, sophisticated thing. Just understand what the direction of travel is, how it impacts you, and what you need to do to address that moving forward. Whatever you do, make sure you include all the roles and responsibilities across the business. It's not that one person. Everyone needs to be involved. Everyone's going to have a part to play in some way or other. Make sure you engage and you communicate with your stakeholders, your clients, find out what they're doing. Can you align with them? Certainly with your supply chain as well. Establish those baselines, understand maybe that you want to maybe you say you take a year like 2019, just understand what and recognize what your baselines are so that you can measure impact going forward. And if your investments are being successful or unsuccessful, and that allows you to make a quick decision in terms of where you go next. So you need to have those baselines so you can properly measure. Implement objectives and targets. A lot of people now moving down the science-based target route around emissions, but again, there's loads of objectives and targets that need to be put in place, even particularly around social return on investment and all this other stuff as well. I suppose the one thing I would be doing straight away is measuring, monitoring, reporting. Even if it's internally, just to your own teams, make sure you measure absolutely everything, you monitor absolutely everything, and you report on absolutely everything. And from that, you all are going to see the trends that are going to inform your business plans, are going to inform your strategies. And I suppose that's that big sort of piece at the minute around businesses becoming more data driven. They're using their performance data to really make those key decisions. And that was always a goal, to make sure that sustainability related information made its way into the boardroom, made its way into senior management team discussions, so that just like health and safety and all these other things, that the information was being used in an intelligent way to inform the business, to inform strategy, so that decisions could be made going forward. And it's critical. So again, using that data and understanding what it's telling your business, and using it then to inform sort of next steps and so on as well. So guys, that is really me. I'm going to quickly just finish up with a little bit about us, and then hopefully we'll jump into some Q&A. Just in terms of who we are, SustainIQ, we're delighted now to be a commercial partner with the CEF. So hopefully over the next year or so, we'll maybe do a lot more sort of webinars and different things like that, or on different topics. We covered a lot of stuff there today, but it would be great going forward to maybe focus in on just certain areas, spend a bit more time exploring maybe just the environment or whatever it might be. So we'll work with closely with the CF to see if we can make that happen. In terms of SustainIQ, as I say, we launched back in 2017. It's a software solution, and we built it across 4 pillars. So it covers responsible procurement, environmental management, people, health and diversity, and community engagement and partnering. So that one tech solution covers all aspects of sustainability across all your sites and your business. It's a one-stop shop, if you like, in terms of all the information is then centralized across all the different sites. Using an app on phone, or we've got bulk upload, or we've got API functionality where we can pull information from other software products and we can push it out then as well. So we've made it as easy as possible to get performance related information in, and then equally pushing it out the other end as well. So it's a system of 2 halves. We've got the input app, which is used on mobile or tablet, but can also use desktop as well. And then we've got the reporting dashboard, which is very visual, lots of graphs and charts, which immediately tell you where you are with regard to performance. It just shines a light on good performance, but also those areas that maybe you need to focus in on to improve a little bit. But that's good, because that instead of having to take the whole sustainability thing at one go, you can break it down into bite-sized chunks, and then you can maximize the impact that you can have. Just quickly, in terms of our procurement pillar, the types of information we currently capture there include recycled materials or materials from recycled content. It could be anything from aggregates, packaging, single-use plastics is a big focus area. All the FSC, PEFC timber, again, all compliant with BREEAM and all of those kind of reporting requirements. We've got a socioeconomic impact calculator, which we upload all your suppliers into the system. It'll tell you how many are located, say, within 30-mile radius of each of your site. You can equate a value to that, and then you can clearly demonstrate to your customer or client the impact you're having in the local area through your procurement selection. It also identifies what percentage of your supply chain might have a third-party accreditation. The environmental pillar then captures all water, all waste management. All the legalities around waste management are built into the system. We've got the greenhouse gas emissions covered, your scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. We use lots of different innovative tools to capture those emissions, including QR codes, to capture particularly scope 3 supplier emissions, for example, making deliveries to site. Captures all the biodiversity and conservation, all that good work you guys do, and any noise, dust, vibration assessments, and then it will let you know if you're above threshold and so on as well. We then use that information in the reporting dashboard to create bespoke reports based on your reporting requirements. If you're reporting back on legislation or on a contract or client requirements such as BREEAM or whatever it might be. The third pillar then covers all the diversity, all the training, all your apprenticeships, direct and indirect placements, health and well-being, and your safety initiatives as well. So this is used by a lot of customers to report back on their social impact, social return on investment, their SRI. So it just captures all of that information, which again is very useful in tenders and PQQs. And then the final pillar there is community engagement and partnering. So that captures all your community initiatives, education engagement, volunteering, charitable donations, and responsible leadership. So we would have a lot of consider constructor scheme auditors or assessors auditing their contractors on SustainIQ, and particularly during COVID, they were able to do it remotely as well. So it's been hugely beneficial for our customers to be able to provide that as a solution. This is the reporting dashboard then. Everything's centralized across all your different sites and departments and offices. In the reporting dashboard, it's all real time. The information goes in once at source, so it eliminates spreadsheets. Using different filters, you're able to sort of drill down into the information, interrogate it, identify trends, and identify those opportunities for improvement. You can produce lots of automated reports, infographic reports, and most importantly, you can benchmark, and therefore you can really get a handle on your performance, whether your investments are making things better or worse. But the most important thing is it makes it transparent, so you're able to use that information to improve performance. So look, we're working with lots of different companies. We started out heavy in construction, and we also work across FMCG and the food and drink sector as well. We're on over 500 sites across the UK and Ireland, so we have loads of incredible case studies that we're more than happy to share with all of you. And if you want, you can jump on our website there. There's a case study section. We're constantly just adding to it. Every couple of weeks or so, we'll get a new case study up there. So it just lets you go and see how our customers are using the system in their own unique way to really sort of drive their own sustainability performance forward, and to help them, particularly with that whole reporting piece. And that is me, folks. So thank you very much for your time. And again, if there's any questions, I'm happy to help.
Liam, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for letting me get your breath back. And I know you love your KPIs. Let me give you a KPI. Of all the webinars we've ever done, we've never had 100% attention kept to the end. We've had no drop-offs during that session. So you've obviously you've held everybody's attention with lots of fantastic information there. As I say, if anybody has any questions, feel free to submit them through the Q&A. We don't at the minute, and I think that's simply because you've run through an awful lot of stuff there, and I think people are digesting it. A few things I picked up interesting about the social return on investment, and sitting on the procurement board at the minute, that's coming down the track very imminently. The increased emphasis on social value within contracts, so tools to measure and do that. Obviously essential, but a really important thing I think you've identified there is that this isn't a one-person job. The days of, and I'm old enough to remember when there was an IT department and you went to the computer room and you did stuff, and now everybody's a computer expert. Everybody's going to have to become a sustainability champion in their own businesses. I think that's important. So obviously we have this task force in CEF now on Construct Zero, and you're kindly part of that. But I think that's been a main part of our discussions there, is raising awareness of this at all levels in the business. So from the apprentice to the managing director, everybody's got a responsibility here, and it's really information at this stage and building awareness and making sure everybody is able to actually get on board. I think as well, we're on a journey from compliance to being proactive, aren't we? Everybody now wants this on their agenda as a selling point, not simply something that you must do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, absolutely. And it's coming from all angles as well, Mark. It's coming from the clients, the contract requirements, and each contract maybe has its own little unique set of requirements as well. So it is, all of it is impacting contracts teams, their ability to report back to the client. And again, it is vast. So it's not just the environmental anymore, as you mentioned, the social value, which again is back up the agenda. And in terms of calculating the metrics and the impact to I suppose the public purse as well, in terms of the impact that these projects are having and the money being spent, what the actual social value return for that money spent is. So, but again, that's coming to the contractors. That's you know, in terms of that whole reporting piece and understanding what those metrics look like. But again, having a solution that facilitates that reporting in an easy way, you know, so that it's not creating a huge amount of work and more roadblocks in house because everyone's busy enough. So it's just recognizing that's the direction to travel, having a look at what it means, what is the impact likely to be in our business, right? Great. What do we need to do now to address that so that it doesn't become a problem for us, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of questions there. We have a question about pricing. So what I would suggest there, if anybody's interested in this, Liam, maybe they contact you directly, but just to make CEF members aware, we do have a bit of an incentive there.
There is, yeah.
From ourselves, which is greatly appreciated. So if anybody wants to inquire with Liam about that, feel free to contact him. We'll be sharing your contact details in the slides afterwards.
Absolutely.
A specific question here. Could you describe in practical terms the vision of the net zero carbon construction site?
Yeah, good question. I mean, you're thinking maybe 10 years, 15 years from now, and a lot of contractors, certainly the big GB contractors, are already starting to talk about being a net zero contractor as well. But it's actually looking at the practicalities of that and how that impacts operations, and how do we operate these sites that are so heavily reliant on like diesel generators for our welfare, for plant and equipment, and all of that. So I suppose, like, just a wee bit before looking at what it might mean, it's understanding first of all what it's going to mean to you. So it's understanding your whole emissions piece. So your scope 1 emissions would be looking at what have you like got direct influence over in terms of maybe diesel on site, Bowsers coming to site, your own company cars, your fit, whatever that might be, and then looking at maybe you're using electricity on site. So and then scope 3 is the sort of more indirect, and certainly transport emissions from supply chain, or maybe leased assets if you're leasing, you know. So there's different scopes. It's understanding those scopes. We'll maybe, Mark, in the future take a closer look at those, and again through the task force there's an opportunity to do that. So it's understanding those, it's understanding where you're generating your emissions, what you've got direct influence over, how much you're producing, why you're producing them, and then once you kind of get a handle on all of that, you've got your baselines. It allows you to start looking at alternatives and what solutions maybe exist, or what solutions are likely to exist in the future. Certainly moving away from the likes of diesel generators, maybe moving towards electrification, looking at renewable energy sources is going to bring the emissions down on site. Maybe we'll never just get quite to zero. There'll always be, you know, an element of CO2 associated just with the works that we do, but then to achieve that net zero, then you might be looking at offsetting. So there's going to be the global, and there already is global offsetting initiatives, so that you can then offset whatever is left and whatever you haven't been able to eliminate. So but it is, in terms of operations, you know, we're looking at, you know, if I was an MD or a director in a company, and I have plant maybe coming to you know, end of life, and you're starting to look at those investments, and you're starting to look at cranes or whatever plant that might be, you know, you really have to factor this stuff in. You know, is this stuff you buy now, is it going to be fit for purpose in a few years' time, you know, or is it going to be frowned upon to be bringing that type of plant on site, you know, particularly because of your client and whatever is in the contract requirements. So it's going to impact all those big investment decisions around plant and equipment, your welfare, but again, it's first and foremost, you need to understand where your emissions are coming from. Once you understand that, you've almost done a mapping exercise, and you can go from there. It makes that whole, I think it demystifies it. It takes the fear element out of it. But what I would say, though, in terms of sitting here today in 2021, there's a lot of external stuff still needs to happen. There's a lot of tech solutions need to come into play to really help the industry move towards achieving those targets around 2030, 2035, 2040, and so on. So hope that answers the question. There's still a lot of not sure's, but there's still a lot you can do today to really understand where you're currently at around the whole emissions piece.
Great. We have no other questions in there at the moment, Liam. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to thank you for your presentation. I mean, genuinely, I think we're all on a journey. I've learned stuff there today, absolutely, and others will have. I know you're available if anybody has any follow-ups or any queries, and they share your details with them. But yes, let's have some more sessions. I think there's a lot more we can talk about in detail. I look forward to doing that. But we thank you, we thank SustainIQ for being our commercial partner today. And we thank everybody for taking the time out of their day to join us. Hope you find it useful and look forward to seeing you all again. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Mark. Thanks, guys. Thank you. All the best.